Good evening, everybody. I figured it was time we should do another live stream. And to begin with, is the music volume okay? I can never quite tell because the YouTube is extremely loud. And typically it stops just as I say that. Great stuff. Okay, so what I've been working on for the past few days, or week, or even more, I forget now, everything's turning into a blur, is I'm remodeling the exterior hull of the ship, the Magellan class. And because the exterior and interior are practically one and the same, one sort of drives the other, I'm also having to do a bit of an interior modification as well. So you can see here I've started to reform the internal structural framework. What I've been doing since last night is just getting some better curves on some of these edges, and then splitting that up into individual framework sections like this piece here. So that would be one solid formed piece. I'll just tweak that a sec. Okay, I'll turn the music down just a little bit. Yeah, we were having a chat earlier about how many people could you actually fit on the ship if you literally just crammed them in shoulder to shoulder. And given that that's 100 people there, it's probably several tens of thousands, considering that the main deck is 2 decks. There would be a lot of people. These guys are lagging, so let's just get rid of them. Yeah, I've been using SketchUp for years, and I've tried doing the same in Blender, but as much as Blender is absolutely the better tool for game modeling, when it comes to doing sort of architectural stuff and structural design, that's SketchUp's thing. That's what it's good at. So I find it's much easier to do the basic geometry in SketchUp first, and then clean it up and make it game ready in Unreal afterwards. Because SketchUp can't do things like surface normals, face weighting. It can barely do UV mapping. It's very limited in what it can actually do. But fortunately, UE5 can do most of that in-house these days. Okay, so what I was doing here. So the ship itself is made of framework chunks. So if I grab like that one there, for example. So in terms of the manufacturing process, this would be one solid piece of internal framework. And they all get welded together to form a deck, and then stacked to form multiple decks. So after I've done the general layouts and design, I then have to chop that up into these pieces. And then this piece, for example, will be imported into Unreal Engine as is, and then textured and cleaned up. So this piece here, this is where the drone bay is going to be, under there. I need to cut that into 3 equal-sized pieces. So this is the basic shape of the back of the top section of the hull. So now I just need to fatten this up a little bit. Let's clean it up. Yes, I will be making the files available for 3D printing or CGI work, whatever anyone wants to do with them, really. We're quite keen to encourage people to, make their own movies using the game. So we have no problem with people taking the ship model or anything else, and use it as part of that production. As long as it's all kind of non-profit and not charged for, we've got no problem with it at all. So all the structural framework is 1-inch thick titanium. I'm using 2.5 centimeters because I'm working in metric, but that's practically 1 inch. So it's all inch thick titanium. And then that's split up into sections using some cross members like these. So in fact, actually, these guys, let me grab them. Hopefully that's lined up perfectly. Yeah, jolly good. Okay, so this section's on a slope, so we ungroup those. I don't think I made these into components. Oh no, I did. Okay. Make them unique then. And we'll start slicing these to the contour of the hull. This one's going to need an extra bit on the edge. Make sure I haven't missed any bits. Okay, so there's one of the support pieces, and they'll go all the way across. A lot of the geometry on this particular section, it won't be visible in-game because it's all going to be covered up underneath the hull plating. But at some point, we're hoping to be able to blow holes through it, so that's when you'll be able to start seeing it. It's just nice knowing that it's there. So the ship does have a full girder structure behind everything that you can't actually see. Welcome to the new joiners. Thank you for joining the stream. I can't promise this will be particularly engaging. It's just me beavering away as I do every day. Yeah, my workflow, generally speaking, is I'll rough things out first in SketchUp, low poly, and then I'll redo that geometry, high poly, clean it up as much as possible, sort of removing unnecessary edges and vertices, and then I will import that all into Unreal, clean it up in Unreal, and then do the texturing and the UV mapping and everything there. So, although yes, it's mental to do something like this in SketchUp in some ways, SketchUp's certainly not a traditional game dev tool, but really all I'm doing is just basic geometry. I'm exporting as in the object format .obj files, so it's not like they're fully UV mapped and textured FBXs or anything like that. I also have about a gazillion plugins, as you can probably tell. This isn't what you get by default with SketchUp. I've installed many plugins over the years. To be honest, a lot of it needs updating, but every time I update it, something breaks, so I kind of don't bother. Right, okay, now I've cut those out. I just need to remove all the edge pieces. Yeah, to be honest, making things a group before you delete them is just a nice way of being able to select everything quickly, and then delete it without affecting the rest of the geometry. It's kind of like a non-destructive delete. It's just a habit I've got into. There's probably far more efficient ways of doing most of the things I do, but this is kind of the way I'm used to doing it. You get stuck in your ways as you get older. Yeah, modding is going to be a difficult one. We've got nothing against modding. If people want to mod the game, feel free. But it's more a case of, how can we support that? Because, like with this, for example, this ship contains, I'd say, well over several thousand individual meshes just to make one ship. And then if you think about modding that, and there's a lot of work. There's a lot of geometry to replace. And not to mention the fact most of this is going to be code as well. So like all the hull plating will have health values and the wall panels will have health values. So to mod a whole new ship is a tremendous amount of work. I'm sure someone will do it because modders be crazy, but yeah, I look forward to seeing people have a go at it. I think the only thing we're planning on doing officially as part of the game is probably going to be like scripted missions. I think it would be great if we could have sort of a mission creation tool at some point. That would make the game sort of infinitely extendable, which I think would be quite cool. Yeah, GM tools are planned. So I'm a big D&D fan. I used to play pen and paper D&D a lot. So we're definitely keen to have a proper GM-led session where the GM can spawn characters, move the ship around, trigger events, hail the ship remotely. So the ship will receive an incoming hail, and that will be the GM managing that conversation, which would be really cool. I think if you get a good GM, they could make some amazing games with this. So we did actually implement GPT 3.5 at one point in the game, and we were using that for the ship's computer. But obviously that was using my free tokens from OpenAI, and they got used up really, really, really quickly. So what we'll probably do is re-implement that functionality at some point, but have a settings in the menu somewhere where you can put in your own API key, and then it's not being charged to us. So looking at ships from other franchises, and yes, that is something we definitely like to do. With any franchise, really, it would be good to be able to approach the franchise owner and say, we have this platform. Can we make a DLC using one of the ships from your universe and add that to the game? Hopefully, we'll get some people that are interested in doing that. Thanks, Iron Fox. So yeah, in terms of ethical AI, we'll be training the AI on our own data. So we want the AI to be sort of intimately familiar with the game world and the lore of the game. So it won't communicate about anything outside of the game world. We don't want to break the immersion by suddenly having it going on about real-world politics or celebrities or something. What we can do, though, is we can feed the model real-time data with things like, where is the ship now? What is outside of the window currently? And have that be available as data for the model in real time. So you could ask like an NPC, what do you think of the view outside of the window? And they'll be able to describe it to you because it would have told them beforehand what's there. Voice attack. Yeah, we already have voice attack support for the helm. I don't think outside of Discord we've mentioned what the keybinds are. But for both voice attack and game glass, there are keybinds which work when you're sat at the helm. So you can just plug those into voice attack, and that will work with some of the helm commands, like Z for engaging the FTL, for example. Yeah, so we don't want to make a chatbot NPC as such, more an NPC which is aware of its surroundings and is able to hold a communication or hold a conversation with the player and other NPCs in a freestyle way, in a non-scripted way. So not specifically as a chatbot, but yes, you'll be able to speak to it like a chatbot. But it won't talk to you about things outside of the game world. At least it shouldn't do if we've done it properly. But yeah, the technology right now isn't quite there. And we need local LLMs which are small and don't require a massive GPU with a lot of VRAM, which most of the current ones do. I think you've got some small like llama models, but we don't want, or rather we have to have a lightweight model, because otherwise every time two NPCs decide to talk to each other, all of that LLM work is taking place on your GPU, which is probably going to grind the game to a halt. So there's a lot of work to do in that regard. I find the biggest challenge with using AI for helping shape the game world is you can't give it a seed. So say you've got an alien star system with an alien race. It would have been nice to be able to say, okay, procedurally generate the name of this race using AI, give it a backstory, give it some lore, what's its religion like, what's its culture like, what is this alien race, go into a lot of detail about them. And you can do that once, but it needs to be repeatable. So you need to be able to give it a seed so that every player that goes to that planet receives the exact same information. And right now, things like GPT-4 can't do that. They can't obey a seed. Things like Midjourney can. You give Midjourney a seed, it will give you the same image practically each time. And something like that could be good for populating the galaxy with unique content. But yeah, we really need the text-based LLMs to catch up a bit there. Console support is something we'd like to do, but the dev kits aren't always cheap. So it's going to be something we'll have to look at, when we've got more funding for that. I imagine if we do go down the road of console support, Xbox is probably going to be the first on the list, because it's essentially just DirectX Windows architecture, so it should be fairly simple. Other platforms might require a dedicated dev. It's not something I've personally ever looked into, so I'd probably struggle with it, with just me on my own. Oops, one too many. Why am won't you move? Oh, you know what? I've just assumed that was flat all the way across there. Of course it's not. That is curved. Right, why don't you line up? Are you in the middle? Yeah. Okay. Right, I shall straighten those up in a minute. Let's just do the other cross sections now. Hi, Spirit Magpie. Nice to see you. Yeah, right now I'm just building framework sections for the ship. This is one of the back pieces from the top cross, I guess you'd call it, which is sea deck. I noticed Claire's just shared the Kickstarter. Thanks for that, Claire. Yeah, if the Kickstarter fails, to be honest, nothing changes. It just gets done more slowly. Because, you know, I was doing this as a hobby before we turned it into any kind of, you know, commercial product. And I will be continuing to do it as a hobby afterwards. So this is just what I do. Sad though that is. Yeah, that's what happens when you extrude. You get these slightly off-angled edges. So I'm going to have to clean that up a little bit. It's got a little bit of geometry just poking through at a weird angle, so I'll chop that off. This is where Claire will be shouting at me and saying, does that little bit really matter? It's like less than a millimeter. Yes, it matters because I know it's there. Yeah, similar problem on this side where it's the extrude has taken it in, away from the vertical. Looks like it starts about there. Alright, that bit I will leave for now. At least the top's nice and straight. That's the bit I need. There we go, look, and now it all lines up perfectly. I think for now I shall just cut that as one piece rather than having it as sections. I will make it sections eventually because this one will need lightning holes punched through it like you do with a boat. Looks like that cut nice and clean, almost. Ugh, what's it trying to do there? No, don't do that. That's better. So when people ask, what makes this game different from other space sims out there, that would be this. It's the fact that every piece of the ship is built as though it were real. So it's got real structural framework. It's got every piece of the ship is being built as though this were a real vessel that you could actually fly around. So even these seemingly meaningless bits of sort of structural framework, they all need to be added and built as part of the design. It's part of why I started doing this in the first place. I did it as actually on the classic Enterprise refit. I started doing that as an engineering study, with the thought being, if we were to build a starship for real in the real world, how would we build it? What systems would it need? What would it look like? And this is very much part of that same question. I'm actually designing the framework structure the same ways megaships are built in the real world. So if you look at an ocean liner or an aircraft carrier, this is exactly how they're built. I'll leave this end one for the minute because they're overlapping. Might be wondering why I make them groups before I make them components. Well, it's because sometimes SketchUp won't bother making the component. Like if I try and make it a component immediately, that time it worked, just to prove me wrong. Sometimes it just doesn't do anything. So I just got into the habit of making them groups first, because then it doesn't ever fail. For anyone not familiar with SketchUp, making something a component means that any changes you make to a duplicate is carried on across all duplicates of that component. So you can make 20 copies of this, you update one, and all the rest of them are updated at the same time. I'm sure Blender's probably got an equivalent function. I think it's a raise, isn't it, in Blender? Haven't looked at it in a long time. So if anyone's wondering whether game dev is a glamorous job, be prepared to do a lot of this. Just the same thing over and over again with ever so slight differences. Okay, so this particular one needs to be half the width. Thanks, Johan. I appreciate that. Yeah, honestly, this is this is a dream project for me. I'm getting to work on what I'd be doing anyway as a hobby. So, doing it as a full-scale project that everyone can be a part of is just a dream come true. And we've got so many cool things planned for the game as well. I'm lost in geometry. Okay, looks like that's pretty much done. Okay, so now I've done that, I'll get rid of some of the placeholder stuff I was doing before, and then we can have a look at that actually properly in place. So get rid of that. Oops. Just make that into its own group. And that is one of the framework pieces. It still needs some polish, but that's essentially done. And then on top of this will be the actual hull plating itself. So that'll be the sort of white ceramic looking tiles that'll go on top. So this is basically just bare metal. Get rid of that template for now. Okay, so the next bit I need to figure out is how I'm going to join those together. So underneath here, this is going to be the drone/probe handling facility. So you have like an airlock here, probe comes out here onto a landing pad, and then flies off towards whatever target you're sending the probe to. So I need to build a little landing pad, a little launching slope, some hangar doors. I think I'll chop this up first, just so I've got all the separate pieces. I pre-measured where the actual framework chunks need to go. Okay, that's one piece. You haven't missed much, just more of the same really. Okay, so those are going to be the next sections. This piece needs to connect onto here. That needs to be built into some doors. And this bit needs a slope adding to it. Let's get rid of that for a sec. Yep, this is a slow and tedious process, but it's yeah, you get there in the end. Actually, what I could do, let me just if I load up the engine, and we'll import that one piece. Yay. I never have any hard drive space left, like ever. Right, so the bit that I've just been building is this bit at the back here. As you can see right now, it's just placeholder geometry. Just been sizing things out and sort of sketching the rough shape of things. None of this is final. The engines won't look like that. This is literally just sort of working out the space and how thick and wide things need to be. That's the general gist of what the ship's going to look like. We're going to have some RCS hardware in these cutting out bits here. That won't be there. That'll be all smooth hull. We've got some heat sinks. It'll move. They'll actually rotate around the ring. Some coil hardware here, which you can't see because the metal is just reflecting black. But yeah, if we get rid of... Oh, did I import the whole thing as one object? Of course I did. Alright, that's going to be a pain. Yeah, weapons. No, there you go. Weapon. This room here, which is going to be a double deck height room on both sides, is going to have the capacitor banks and the loading hardware for the turrets. So you'll have a turret on top and a turret underneath, all connected to this same room. So that's where you'll manage all of that. Just need to make sure I export the right bits. So we want them. Then we want that one. It's only going to be one-sided, but that will do for the minute. What did I save it as? That one. Yeah, you can land in the water, but you won't be getting out again. I've got a few bits there. Actually, yeah, talking about like ramming a champagne bottle up against the hull. I know it's been done in Trek, but yeah, I thought it'd be really cool just to see that as part of an opening CGI, seeing the bottle smash off of the hull and then the camera pulls out to reveal the whole ship. That could be quite cool. So my plan for these side bits here, I'm actually going to have a walkway underneath, so where the light's shining through there, this will be a wall and a room beyond with some windows. But I'm going to have a sort of an undercover walkway with a handrail so that people, or engineers that are on the outer hull fixing things, have got this kind of cool space to walk through, which I think will be quite immersive. Right, so we need to get those bits added now. Your Enterprise D is what started it all, Hauken. In fact, I think I used a picture of your Enterprise D in a presentation I did to PitCon. So that was like the era of the age of mega builds in Minecraft. There will be animated landing gear on shuttles and things, but not this. This ship won't be able to land. So the idea is you'll take a shuttle from this platform down to planets. Any kind of landing this thing does will be nose first into the ground. What inspired me? That's an interesting question. Being a nerd, I think, fundamentally. I've always loved space, I've always loved starships, and I've always loved science and engineering, so kind of bringing all that in together into a project like this is just, I don't know, it's like a natural step of progression for me. Yeah, that's really cool, Hauken. It's like you're single-handedly inspiring a whole generation of space games. ring would this be? So that would be ring 1, ring 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That would be ring 7. Gonna need some new folders. So you want ring 7 framework C deck aft. Scale ratio, I guess you'd call it 1:1. These are human scale vessels. This particular one is 300 meters long by 150 wide. And 150 tall as well, because it's circle. Right, so now that I've exported that file, we need to then import that file. Folder. So what I do is I import just as a straight OBJ. I leave the world origin where it is, which is why it's over there, because for the framework pieces, it just makes life easier like that. Let me give it a material, like so. So there's essentially just the underlying framework. For the minute, I use complex collision on this, and because this is nanites, it will use the nanites fallback. So this is the collisions. They're not great, but I'll give it custom collisions once I've got a little bit more time to spend making that. Okay, so now that I've done that, I go on to the CDEC framework level. So framework, it's a sheet in this case. And then we go find it. Right, so that's the piece we just made. And as I say, that's just bare framework, so all the hull plating will go on top of that. But it's probably got some weird normals going on there, so just to improve that a little bit, we'll go into modeling mode, and we will then try and remember which option it is. Epic changed the menu. It's one of these. Where's normal's gone? they stick it under tangents? No. Oh, there it is. Couldn't see it for looking. Right, so we want area angle weighted, facial normal threshold. 60 is usually enough. Right, that gives us our face weighted normals on the mesh. Okay, so with that one roughed in for now, right, let's get the curve in on this one. So the start of the curve needs to line with the two mesh sections there, so let's just measure that. Okay, it's not far off, that's good. I think I'll do this side first. It's probably going to be easier because that's just a straight cut. Right, so that's about that long. So if we spin that round 180 degrees, that should give us our edge. Right, that's where we need to cut from. Right, then we're going all the way up to there. I'll keep those bits hanging around in case I need them later. So we're essentially forming the walls of the shuttle launch area now, or the probe launch area. That lines up with the internal wall there. That bit's not needed. Thanks, Wilbur. Very kind. Okay, so before I make that wall, I actually need to cut the inner piece from this one. That bit there is no longer relevant, so that can go. What's that on top? That's the old bit. Right, so you don't need that piece. But what we do need is to cut through 50 centimeters away from the edge there, because that is a 50 centimeter overhang, which will go all the way around. No, I moved on to 5.3 quite a while back. Pretty sure the demo is on 5.3. Yeah, it's been 5.3.2, I think, for a while. Hang on, I forget now. Yeah, 5.3.2. So what I'm doing here, I'm just getting the inside edge lined up so that I can cut out the external wall. That should be 65-ish. Yeah. So that's the full width of the outer wall. That should be approximately 50 centimeters. Yeah, 50.3, that would do. Let's get rid of that out of the way a minute. Ugh. What's going on with that? Better. Yeah, the ship will be covered in spotlights. Because one of the problems we have, well, case in point, I've got a secret magic light I can turn on. If I turn that off, you now can't see anything. And this is what the ship will look like in interstellar space. Because there's no starlight at all lighting it up. And that looks boring. So we'll there's some things like spotlights shining on the hull. Really dim spotlights. So yeah, so mounted in certain places around the hull, we'll have lights like that, just sort of lighting up sections of the hull. Probably all around, to be honest. there'll be plenty of hidden nooks and crannies on the ship. I've got a nice sort of hidden engineering area planned right at the back underneath the shuttle bay. You have to crawl through all the maintenance tunnels to find it. It'll just be like a table and a couple of chairs and a pot of coffee. Something weird going on there. When you intersect things on SketchUp, sometimes it does this weird stuff. It just completely messes up the geometry. In fact, I think what I'll do is get rid of that entirely. Hi, Alexander, sorry. Yeah, so right now, as you can see, it's a very, very manual process to build each ship. And that's really my fault, because I'm wanting to do it as sort of architecturally exactly as I can. But moving forward, it would be nice to have a modular system built whereby we could prefab ships using predefined hull sections. There's complications to that because there's a lot of infrastructure that needs to connect together, pipes, cables, that sort of thing. But if we can do unified connection points, then modular ships will definitely be possible. What is going on with this geometry? Yeah, the plan I had for it would be to essentially have modular pieces where the endpoint for each pipe or cable is in the same place on each modular piece. So when you connect them together, then automatically basically do an overlap check to see whether or not there's a connector for another piece of pipe where the pieces intersect. It should work, because all that can be done sort of offline before the game starts. I've got a few bits of geometry to clean up here at some point, but that will do for now. Yeah, I've been using naval shipbuilding sort of as the base for how I'm doing all of this. So you have the same process where you build the structural blocks, like this piece here. So this is one mega block, as they'd call it, I suppose, in the industry, and then you weld them all together to make the full vessel. That doesn't look too bad. I bet this edge is all messed up, but we'll see. Yeah, of course it is. So what I'll do later, I won't do it on stream, is I'll join all the outer skin pieces back together again, extrude it as one solid piece, and then do the vertical cuts, and then you won't get this sort of extrusion artifact where it's going off at a funny angle, because it always does the extrusion. Wow, that's a hard word to say. Extrusion. It is extrusion, isn't it? Yeah. It always does it at a 90-degree angle to the surface normal, which is why it comes off like this. Come on, you can do it. Oh, is it there? It's missed a bit. Yeah, it's that piece there. Okay. Sorry about that. Had to disappear for a moment. Claire usually bursts in with something like ground-shatteringly important to say. This is definitely something you spend a lot more time doing with the likes of SketchUp, is fixing broken geometry. So every time you run like a cut or a slice, it always decides to create some weird edges. There we go. Fixed. No, the music's not copyrighted. I'm using a channel called Lo-Fi Geek, and it's chill lo-fi beats to study to no copyright lo-fi. So I think we're in the clear. Oh, hang on a minute, you're on about the game music. No, the game music is our own music, so it's not copyrighted. You can use it. Funny story, actually. Before, we actually got a copyright strike on our own music, which was really funny. So our composer Eric had to sort that out. So you are free to stream the game music without any concerns. Oh yeah, I'm definitely going to have to re-extrude these. Oh. Sorry, I'll bodge it for now. Hi Glenn, welcome to the stream. We're building framework sections tonight. Now that I've got that piece built, I'll go ahead and chop off the old template roughing out that I was doing before. Don't need that anymore. Hopefully the structure will become a little bit more self-explanatory once I start putting the actual corridors and things in. But just as a rough example, it's a bit like this. So this is going to be one of the outer C deck corridors. It's going to have windows all the way along the edge here. Oops, too much stuff. But yeah, going to look a bit like that. The C deck that I'm building now is significantly different to the one that's in the demo. So it's going to have a lot more in the way of corridor layout and rooms and things. Okay, that's that template piece gone. Yeah, generally speaking, I'll have a think about what the purpose of the ship actually is. You know, what's its job, and then have a think about what kind of crew complement that ship's going to need. So in this case, we hit upon the figure of around about 200 crew, and the ship is physically a lot bigger than you'd expect for 200 crew, but each one of these rectangles here is a crew quarters, and there are 200 of these, 100 on D deck, 100 on E deck. You kind of see them sort of through there. So with these 200 crew quarters, you know, that takes up a significant amount of the ship, and then the rest of it's just facilities. So at the front here, you're going to have a park area, a sick bay, a cinema is going to be here, gym over on this side. So as much as it's only 200 crew members, you know, 200 people still need a lot of infrastructure to keep them going. So really the size and the layout of the ship is driven through necessity of the amount of crew you've got and what they're actually going to be doing. C deck's probably a little bit large. There's a few rooms here which I haven't quite found a use for yet, but it's going to have at least 9 science labs. But yeah, then after that, it's just a case of coming up with a cool shape. Yeah, the ship operates a 3-shift rotation. So with 200 crew, you got about 60 people per shift. Yeah, so that's only 60 people running this whole ship, which isn't very many. So for a 3-shift rotation, 200 is definitely probably the minimum you'd want. Just making sure I've got this lined up properly. The more polished geometry is a slightly different height to the roughing out I did, but that's not a problem. Everything will still fit nicely. Actually, if I make that a group, we can get this exported. So this would be ring 5. Ring 5 framework, C deck, aft. I don't have a trained background in engineering. In terms of my previous career, I was actually an IT manager. I managed a global network. So that's quite far from engineering, really. I guess the engineering side is just something I've always been interested in. Before I went into IT, I always wanted to be an architect. So I guess this is kind of related to that, I suppose. My sister's actually an architect, so I guess it runs in the family. But yeah, I guess most of it, to be honest, is self-taught. In fact, to be honest, a lot of the stuff I do on the ship is self-taught, like the electrical engineering, or the astrophysics. I read papers. I go on huge YouTube binges, just learning about the subject matter, and then I take that knowledge into the game. So in terms of games, because I made a VR rebuild of the Enterprise refit, sort of a VR thing you could walk around, and then after that, because that never got released, that was just a hobby. After that, I went to work for Stage 9, and we were doing an Enterprise D recreation, full interior, full walk around. And then we got shut down by CBS, not unexpectedly. And after that happened, we contacted the showrunners for the Orville, Fuzzy Door Productions, and asked them whether we could make the Orville ship instead, basically showing them the work we did on Stage 9 for Star Trek. And they agreed and said, yep, okay, as long as you don't make money off of it, we're happy for you to do that. So, yeah, much different attitude to the way CBS handled it. Yeah, so I was the project lead on that for like 2 years. But I really wanted to make Starship Simulator. I really wanted to make my own game as my own project with my own IP. So about 3 and a bit years ago, I left the Messy Desk team and founded Fleetyard, which is where we are now, 3 years later. Yeah, the AI, you'll be able to order them around, give them jobs to do and things. And for the most part, they will be automated, and they'll just get on with the task at hand based on their priority list. But when it comes to the AI on the bridge, if you're the captain role, you'll be able to look in their direction. We'll probably have a radial menu that pops up, and then you can issue commands and things. Now we need to get the curve bit in. Now, if I remember rightly, I think I did this as a 30-degree slope. Did I? Oh, 75. Oh, hang on. Was that 35 then? Yeah. Okay. So that needs moving. Actually, now I think about it, I think what I will do is give that more of a gentle slope up. So if I make that 50, curve that off a little bit. Yeah, that's nicer. And that one was 200. Okay. Yeah, I've got a HOTAS myself, so we'll definitely be setting it up so that you can use joypad, HOTAS, traditional joystick, any input device we can think of, really. Keybinds will be coming soon, so you should be able to set all that up then. I think the The challenge with using something like a throttle, an external throttle, is that the speed differential between going around a star system to going between stars is massive. I mean, it's a huge speed differential. So fitting that onto a 0 to 100% scale is quite challenging. And you might notice that in the game right now, I think between 0 and 8%, there's no difference in speed because of the logarithmic scale that's being used. So we're going to be mixing that up a little bit so that the throttle is more a field strength, which is then further defined by how much voltage is available from the reactor. So it's going to be quite an organic system. So throttling the ship isn't going to be a straightforward affair. I've got a 5-year-old i7. I think it was a 6800. Can't remember now. And I'm using a 2080 Ti. So I'd say sort of high mid-range. I find it's better to develop on a lower end system, because then you're not sort of artificially thinking your game's really performant when it's not. So I definitely recommend anyone working on a game to develop on a low end system, because it's kind of forces you to optimize more. We do have our own Twitch, but we haven't actually used it yet. I don't stream very often, so it's not really something we're set up for. But I do intend to stream more often now. We did a poll on our Discord, and the time that seems to be most popular is, I think it was 7 PM UTC on Saturday evenings. So that's probably what we're going to go with for a regular slot. And if I can manage to keep that up once a week, we might then extend that to twice a week. Maybe do a midweek stream as well. I'm notoriously bad at community engagement. I just tend to get my nose stuck into developing and just forget the world exists. And then Claire reminds me, you do have a community, Thanks, Glenn. I'll look into that. Would we sell the studio and the game? No, definitely not. We've already turned away many dozens of publishing offers. Granted, they've not been big publishers, but we do get probably 2 or 3 publishers a month contact us. And we'll always take their offer seriously, but we're not interested in any kind of third-party oversight in what it is we're doing. This is, again, this is a work of passion for me. This is my hobby. So, I don't want to just sell that on. Yeah, if someone dropped like $1 billion on me, I'd say, all right, thanks, and then carry on and start again. Start again with a much bigger bank account. But no, it's not something we're looking to sell. I hate the autosave in SketchUp. Every time it does it, I think it's hung. Right, so I want to join this slope to there. And I also want it to be curved. So that's going to be interesting. because if I stick a curved edge on this, then that curved edge needs to follow through here and also join onto here. Which means it's time to break out the subdivision, I reckon. So yeah, I think I definitely will get this thing 3D printed once it's like finished and polished. I think that would be very cool. To be honest, we might even stick it on our store once we've set the store up. I also I made another deal with our Discord, and I said that if this game ever makes £1 million British, I will get a tattoo of the game's logo. So there we go. I've now said it publicly. I mean, I hope it makes $1 million. I think what I'm really keen to do is to be able to take on more developers, because you can see, you know, how long it takes just to build framework sections like this for the ship. You know, it's quite a time-consuming process. If I had a team of artists and developers behind me, you know, they could be working on other systems while I'm building ships, which would be really cool. Yeah, the base game is planned to be free, but that's contingent on the successful Kickstarter and us having enough funding to be able to do it. Because you know, if we don't hit our Kickstarter target, and then if we go to Indiegogo afterwards and that also fails, then we're just going to have to do a paid early access, because, you know, game dev isn't free. You know, games can cost a lot of money to build. But, as Claire will be reminding me to say, you know, if we fail to meet our funding targets, that doesn't mean the game's not going to be made, because as I said before, this is a hobby for me, so there's no reason for me to stop doing it. The demo's on Steam. I'm sure Claire will link the link. Yeah, we've worked with volunteers in the past, and for the most part it's been fine, but it's also not been fine at times. Like we've had situations where in this project, in fact, someone wanted to help out and everything was fine, and then they decided to go and work on a different project and said that we then couldn't use any of the assets that they've made for the game. Things like that happen when you're working with volunteers, so we've said that we're only ever going to work with paid employees. So if someone's working on the project, they'll be paid for it. The main campaign, we're probably going to be looking around about £20. It really is going to depend on how big and how long the campaign ends up being, and how much resource is needed to actually make it. If it's going to be a several 100-hour campaign with lots of paid voice actors, we might have to charge more for it, but if it's a relatively small affair, then it'll be less. That's probably true for all of the DLCs that we're going to release. And so predominantly, everything's made in blueprints. We do have some things in C++, and there's a lot of systems which I want to convert to C++, certainly on the optimization side of things. Things like, I've got some array sort functions I wrote which are in blueprints, which is terrible because it's going to be so much quicker on C++, but blueprints are great for rapid prototyping, so I do it in blueprints first, and then if it's something real time or something performance heavy, at some point it'll be converted to C++. Yep. The plan is we're going to do streams at 7 p.m. on Saturday evenings. That's 7 p.m. UTC, which is UK time. Might have actually been 8 p.m. Hang on, let me check. We did have a poll that we did. Oh yeah, 8 p.m. UTC. So that is what our community wanted, so that's what we will do. Right, so that now needs blending into there to make a nice smooth transition. And that's going to serve as the sort of takeoff and landing area for the drones/probes. I still haven't quite worked out what to call them. I mean, technically they're drones, but you'll be using them as probes, so too much stuff in the way. So you'll be sending these guys down to planetary surfaces. Obviously this isn't the final model, this is just a scale mock-up I did. But these will have like a trunk you can open up, and they'll contain a physical sample, something that was picked up from the planet's surface, which you then carry out into the science labs so they can have science performed on it. But this is the area which they will take off from and land back to. Yeah, I can see, people saying send down a probe, which tends to roll off the tongue a little bit easier. But technically it's a drone. I guess when the original Star Trek was made and things like send a probe was sort of entered into modern language, drones didn't really exist as a thing back then. Okay, well, I've just noticed the time, so I need to shoot off now. I shall leave you with a beauty shot of the ship. Actually, no I won't. I will leave you very quickly by showing you the spinny rings. Oddly, it takes a lot longer to load in engine than it does running packaged, even though technically everything's already loaded. See them that side. Let's go out here and have a look. So this was just a mock-up I did of how the FTL rings might end up working. So the idea is that they'll be stationary when you're not at FTL, and then when you initiate the FTL drive they'll spin up, So spinning up the FTL drive actually physically does mean spinning up the FTL drive. But yeah, we'll have a play with that and see whether that makes sense or not to do. I think it adds a nice little bit of visual dynamism to it. Okay, anyway, so thank you everyone for watching. I know this has been a little bit of a disjointed, mumbling stream on my part, but I don't do this very often. Please do check the description. There's a link there to the Kickstarter. It's just collecting followers right now, but we plan to go live somewhere around the beginning of March, assuming I can get the new ship hull model finished. And yeah, and hopefully I'll be back again for another stream on Saturday at 8 PM UTC. So thanks again everyone, and I shall catch you next time.